Hi, I'm Sanera Madani, and I'm a mom of two, a daughter of an immigrant, and an unlikely entrepreneur who went from scaling an idea to $1 billion business. Yes, $1 billion business. Along the way, I learned that less than 2% of female founders ever hit 1 million in revenue, and I became obsessed on a mission to change that. I believe that there is so much gatekeeping in business knowledge, and that we as female entrepreneurs should be learning from other female founders and leaders who have broken the statistics. Since I never went to CEO school, I've had to learn it all the hard way, but you shouldn't have to, because we believe that you deserve to have it all. And honestly, nothing bad happens when women make more money. Grab a seat because class is officially in session. Welcome to CEO School. Hi everyone, welcome to CEO School. I'm your host, Sanera Madani, and I am here with a dear friend of mine, Carolina Flores, who you may have heard of her name, spoken on probably many different episodes, because Carolina is my producer and my podcast manager of the CEO School podcast. So all of you have been loyal listeners for the last 3 years that this show has been around, and Carolina has been just part of this journey over the last 2 years. As soon as we took the show from out of my house into the studio, and Carolina and her husband Carlos are just literally the most unbelievable humans, and they're just part of our team. And I'm just so excited for today's episode because we're going to be talking all things podcasting. We're going to go into details on how our show works, the business behind podcasting, and then of course what's taking place in like the creator space and how all of you as entrepreneurs can leverage podcasting in your business, and what are our favorite shows, and like just all the behind the scenes of the CEO School podcast. So I'm super excited to welcome Carolina. She's the founder of High-Low Studios here in Orlando, Florida. She is also the co-founder of Nico and Bass. She also is in charge of our merch line as well. So she has all of these amazing marketing and production style companies underneath the High-Low Labs conglomerate, right? So I just love that concept as well of how they're taking their clients and doing multi things for their multi-passionate clients. And so we're going to go into all those details. And of course, Carolina is a mom of 3 beautiful kids and a really proud Dominican as well. And so I'm just so excited to have you officially finally on the show. Carolina, welcome to CEO School.
Thank you, Sanera. I'm so excited and honored to be here, to be a part. I'm obviously an unbiased fan of the show, but I remember hearing your show years ago. Well, I guess like 3 years ago or 4 years ago now, and taking as a young entrepreneur myself and taking all those nuggets and actually scaling my business from a side job hobby to an actual real business. 5-figure. I remember hitting my first 5 figures in revenue and being like, oh my God, this actually works. So it's actually a nice little full circle moment for me to be on this show now.
It really is. And I love Carolina's. And this is honestly, it's so inspiring. And I hope all of you get inspired, especially our early stage entrepreneurs that are listening. Side hustles this is the way you validate your business idea. And I met Carolina. When I first started the CEO School podcast, it was COVID. So it was out of our laptop as well. And we had an amazing production company and this amazing woman, Caitlin Howard, who supported me through our first getting through starting the podcast. And one thing you all know, I love supporting women entrepreneurs. That's always on the top of our list of when I'm seeking vendors. And I wish that for so many businesses, if we just actually supported, you all are women-owned businesses. Let's look at the percentage of businesses that you support that are women-owned businesses.
Right.
And even if you can make that difference, it makes such a difference to support each other. And that's where it starts. And so I remember Caitlin had a production company and we were doing our podcast episodes right out of our computer and on Zoom, and I had just gotten a mic. And then from there, the show was scaling so fast and so rapidly. And one of the things that I wanted to really do was bring guests in person and start bringing doing the production at a different level. And so just want to give a shout out to our first producer, Caitlin, who was so instrumental in building CEO School. And And now with Carlina, I actually ended up meeting Carlina. She, was very determined to like find me in Orlando. And when you really manifest something, I'm excited for you to kind of share this story, but Carlina had, put me on her vision board, manifested that she would be producing our show, and found a way to literally get into the Stacks office, like literally get into my office, have a meeting with me, and tell me why we should utilize her services for the CEO School podcast, and painted this amazing vision for me of what this show could be, if I had my own studio, and like what this could look like. And so I'd love to kind of take that back, and I want to inspire all of these, whether, it doesn't matter what business or industry you're in, the power of your will.
Right.
Okay. And the power of like you're doing something on the side and saying this can be something. We are literally foolproof here, sitting here today, of how that story has come full circle as I've walked into literally a a 20,000 square foot studio with multiple labs here, they're producing 20 shows a month right now out of the studio, multiple styles of creative things that are taking, like this has become this most beautiful staple in Orlando now, as Hi Hello Labs. And it started with just that side hustle and that idea.
Yeah.
So can you take us back to how this has become a reality?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to 2019. I was actually pregnant with my third child, and I had started this sort of side hustle idea, which was Hi Hello Co on the merch side and all of that. And it kind of started becoming a little more than a hobby. And I knew that's what I wanted. And then becoming pregnant with my third child, I had gone with, postpartum depression. I have my oldest son has special needs. And so you kind of get into this mindset of like, oh no, what is this baby now going to mean in our lives? And what does this mean for my own dreams? And I know that a lot of women, we deal with that struggle of like, can I be mommy and can I be an entrepreneur? And how, having to balance all of that. And I was going to quit on my hobby. And I had a friend who said, I want you to come to this event with me. There's this girl that's going to be speaking at this event, and she's awesome. She's local in Orlando. Now, if you know Orlando, small Lando, as we call it locally, it's a big city, small town feel. And so there's not really a lot of excitement in the business world that comes out of Orlando, unless you're like theme park.
Yeah,
right?
Unless you're like vacation, travel,
right?
Hospitality.
Like that's like that tourism deal. And so I was like, who's this girl who's like total, boss in Orlando? So I got to go hear her. And so I remember showing up with my little baby bump and kind of like halfway expected. Yeah. So it was like this unofficial girl boss event, which later turned out it wasn't girl boss hosting it, but it was fine. It was perfect.
It was that like girl boss rally
at like
thing.
East End Market thing. Yes.
Oh.
And so I remember you walked in and you had Mila.
Yeah.
And Mila was tiny.
Yeah,
she was I don't know, like 3.
Months.
Yeah, or like a very like little toddler. And you walked in with her in your arms. And that moment alone of nice. Wow, somebody else is doing this. I can do it. And I know you talk so much about this, about like, it's important to see somebody else. You don't know what you don't see. And so I remember that night going home and going, I can do this. That can be me in 3 years with my baby. And we had just found out it was a girl. So it was like very special. That can be me with my baby girl, in 3 years. And so I started listening to the podcast and doing the thing, and my business grew to 5 figures. And so once COVID hit, my husband had like a moment of, what are we going to do? And so there was a couple of things. Entrepreneurship, and I know you've said this before, but was a necessity in our family. So we had a special needs son. We needed to put him we wanted to put him in a private school that would really cater his needs. And it was a lot of money. It's college tuition. It literally costs $40,000 to put him in the school. And we have 3 kids, and there's a lot, and that doesn't include therapies. And so we were like, how are we going to problem solve this? And I think people tend to have 2 mindsets when it comes to limitation. Either they go into a woe is me, oh well, this is the cards we were dealt, or their creativity spikes and you go into problem solving mode. And so that's where my husband and I went into. We're like, we have no option. We have to break out of our limitation and think. I love Craig Rochelle says this. You have to think unreasonably, like be an unreasonable leader. And so we started thinking, how can we unreasonably solve this problem? And we're like, all right, well, what are we good at? I'm good at marketing, events, production. You're good at media, marketing. My husband has a background, 13 plus years at that point in TV production. He produced a daily show that aired on TV. And so we're like, how can we bridge that and solve a problem here in Orlando? And so we actually had our own podcast. We started in 2017 out of our dining room home. And so we kind of had like all these ideas, all these stepping stones in our tool belt. And so we figured, Orlando doesn't really have a place where high level entrepreneurs, content creators can really come in and produce their content. A lot of the people that we knew of were producing out of Miami, Atlanta, New York. And so no one was really here in Orlando. And we're like, that's it. This is our thing we're going to do. We're going to provide this service. We didn't want to be just another, and we said it, we got to go big or go home. We don't want to be just another podcast producer helping people with their laptops, which is great. That's a great start for a lot of people, but there was already somebody doing that. And so what were we going to do to stand out?
What was that unique differentiator?
Right. And we're like, we need an actual space. And so that's where we threw our entire life into building this thing that has now paid off. And in a year and a half, we've already grown to expand into our space. We've grown our team. We have a team of 7 now. And it is absolutely incredible what we've been able to accomplish in a year and a half. Including CEO School.
Oh my goodness. I didn't know that, Cara, that you were at that. I know exactly what event you're talking about. And I know why Mila was there that day, because during the early stages of it was like the mid stages of Stacks. It was Fat Merchant probably at that time.
Yes. And I have a funny story about that actually.
Yeah. And it's difficult. Like it's so difficult with just being a mother. Like it is so hard. Just leaving your kids and working the way, like you feel so much guilt when they're little. And I had so much responsibility in the daytime part of my job. And then there was so much happening from at nights and weekends and the speaking engagements and all this stuff, which was super important. My job as a CEO wasn't just to be in the office. My job was to get the name out for our company, get everybody talking about our company. And that's exactly something I excelled at. And I feel like I didn't get a lot of credit for that. Like all of that work that has made Stacks successful was all of those nights and weekends, not just the day job of me being CEO.
Right.
And I remember that night I always had this 2-night rule, at least with the babies, or I don't even think Anna was born. And so I would bring her, this is like the work-life integration. You guys hear me talk about it every episode of I truly, if you're building something, work-life balance is hard. And I was fighting so hard for that work-life balance until I just figured out, let's just integrate it, right? Let's just integrate, the kids, into it. And I remember bringing Mila because I had gotten home and I was like, let's go. She's going to come with me. And I couldn't afford childcare all the time. So I had a nanny that was helping me in the daytime. But I couldn't have help all the time. So it's not like I came to the event and I would literally hope for the best of how my kid was going to behave, whether she was going to let me sit on stage or whatever else. And I remember her walking in and she was just she was not going to do that. So I literally kept her on my lap the entire time that there was
And that's what was so cool, because this is before COVID. So this is what you have to understand. This is before COVID. This is before it was normal to have your kids in the background and working from home. This was a time where it was still very taboo. This is me, entrepreneur, professional, and this is me, mom, over there. And so to see that in action, there was a point where you're literally doing a Q&A and you're holding her in your arms, and I'm oh my gosh, this is so refreshing. What a breath of fresh air that was.
And I'm so proud that is I didn't have any other choice, right? That's kind of where it was. I didn't have another choice. And I always do what I say I'm going to do. Like that is something that I'm really proud of. And we were talking about it earlier today.
Yeah.
And I'm so exhausted. You can tell my voice. If you listen to me every week, you know where my energy level is at. But I'm actually glad it's like in this Zen space today. Came back from Tulum for like a 5-day like crazy 40th birthday trip, and it was amazing. But I'm tired. But I have a commitment, and I always show up for my commitments. But I remember that day, and that's really special that you were there, and I'm so glad that was inspiring. And you were so right. And I really do believe it. You can't be what you can't see. And that is why it is so important for you to get out there and also do your part in inspiring others. And this is why it's important for you also to be successful. This is why I do this. And I hope you are so wildly successful, but you don't just take that success for yourself. You're sharing it with others so that you can inspire the next generation and everyone else to look at you and say, wow, if she can do it, so can I, in whatever capacity that looks like.
Right.
And, I'm so glad. Yeah, I remember that event. You're there. And then you showed up to my offices and with amazing marketing, by the way. And I want to say, like, you can will your way into anything. And the power of like, I like right now on the plane back, I literally sat down and I was like, okay, what partnerships do I want to form before the end of the year? And I've had this year focused on like getting the business like back in like motion. I haven't been on the business side of CEO School, so I got that going. And I'm like, these are like all the people I want to have on the show. These are all the people that I want to have partnerships with and collaborations with. Started making that list, and it's not just about having the list and then putting it away, right? That's like that vision board exercise that you do, that you like make the vision board and then you stick it in the drawer. You wrote out, you were like, here are the people that I want to work with. And she literally got her foot into the door and sent stuff to the office, the cutest things, the most customized things every week to get my attention until I literally was like, who is this woman that is like sending me, like you sent a picture of like my dad and like an art photo of like me and my father.
That could have gone either way. You could have been like, what is this girl's problem?
No, but I think the people that you want to attract, like that are like you, are also going to receive that. And the ones that don't and that are like, who is this? Like, this is like a weird, like that's not me anyway. So you don't want those clients. Yeah. And so be your 100% most authentic self, put it out there and find a way relentlessly to get into the door because it works.
Absolutely.
And that's a story for Sarah Blakely. That's a story for myself when I wouldn't take no for an answer. That's a story for every freaking entrepreneur that is successful out there, is that they do not take no for an answer and they will their way into that yes.
Absolutely.
And that's what you did, Carolina.
Absolutely. So I have a funny story about fat merchants. Yeah. That's the whole thing. So again, I'm sending these gifts. I'm trying to come up with a way of like, how can I showcase what I can do? And so I was like, I know, I have this beautiful idea. I knew that you guys had a game room at Fat Merchant at the time. And I was like, okay, I sent to make these beautiful custom acrylic tic-tac-toe sets that the pieces, instead of O's, were the Fat Merchant,
the logo,
the little piggy. So I was like, this is super cool. Like everyone's going to see it every day. Like what a fun thing. And I had made, I sent to make like 100 cookies with the little Fat Merchant piggy logo on it, the whole thing. Well,
yo, that's serious time and investment.
Yes, that was an investment. And again, small business, like it was a financial investment, it was a time investment, it was all the things. And so
that's gutsy.
Yes. So I sent to make this saying, I drop it. I'm like, they're local. I'm not even going to ship it. I'm going to go and drop it off myself. Probably won't let me in the door. They're a tech company, but I don't care. I'm going to find a way to get in there. And so I remember sitting in the parking lot for like 15 minutes, like, what am I doing? Like having this conversation back and forth with myself. I'm like, who do you think you are? Come on, you got this. What are they going to do? Say no? They're whatever. So I get in there and I just say, I have this package, for you guys. Like, just want to say thanks for being an awesome company in Orlando and like, thanks for all you're doing for our community, and walk away. Like, I don't ask to see you. I don't even like, nothing. That's all I do. I'm thinking I'm about to get this awesome like shout out. Like they're going to call me. Something's going to happen. Nothing.
Oh my
Crickets. I go on Stack's Instagram, and sure enough, there's people like from Stack's like posting like, oh, look at these awesome cookies. Oh, look at this. No one's asking where they came from. What are they for? Nothing. So this is the best part. This is the funny part. Come Monday, there's this huge, you guys been announced, there's this announcement coming. There's this huge announcement coming. It was a whole rebrand.
It was a change of Fat Merchant to Stacks.
So now the piggy,
to be the weekend that
yes,
you chose.
it was literally the weekend I chose. And there went the piggy, whatever, the TikTok to, like none of that mattered. None of that was relevant anymore.
But
and I literally was like, what is life?
But it did matter.
But yeah, and I didn't give up. And talking about intention and will. And then that's where I was like, okay, I'm not trying to reach the company. I'm trying to reach her.
Yes.
And so that's where I had this
This is this is going to be so good. This is the lesson here.
Yes. And so I had this shift of like, if I keep making
I'm not
it
trying
about
to reach
me,
the company. I'm trying to reach her. Know
Yeah.
your audience.
Yeah. And people do business with people.
Yeah.
Right? So you weren't going to see that and
Yeah.
go, oh, it's hi, hello. Who's hi, hello? It's Carolina. And so I had to find a way to make it about you. And I think that's so important in business. Everyone's so focused on me. How's this going to serve me? How am I going to, it's all about me, 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 me. But when you make that shift and you make it about the you, and you make it about your customer, you make it about your client, you make it about your business partner, you make it about your suppliers, there's a shift that happens. And so you begin to think differently, you begin to act differently. And that's what happened. When I took my eyes off of Fat Merchant Stacks as a client and I said, no, it's Sunira I want to connect with, it because it's Sunira who's making the impact. What is important to her? And that's where I had the idea of, building that or customizing that piece of art or commissioning that piece of art for you. And then the note cards with your quotes on them and all of that. And that's where there was an immediate. And what's funny is that's the one gift I sent with, I don't even care anymore. Like if I get anything out of it, I just want her to know that she's made a difference, because in my mind, I've already built my little 5-figure business. I'm good.
Yeah.
But it was also a matter of like, I need to know the impact she's making. And that's where you were like, I need you to come in. I need you to set up a meeting. Show me everything you can do. Who are you? And then here we are.
Oh my goodness, Carolina. There's so much here to unpack in that story. I love one that you didn't give up. I love that you said like, this is who I want to work with. And then you have that shift and being like, who's my audience? Like, I want to connect with her. And then sometimes just releasing it to the universe too. Like truly, sometimes we get in our own way of trying to over control everything. Even my coach would tell me that all the time of like, I try to, I'm pretty like, I think as women, we all do, right? We want to control every little element, but sometimes we don't just let it also be. And so you came in with that final intention of it just being like, actually, I don't have an ask, I just have a give.
Yeah.
And then it all kind of came back. And actually, I remember those cookies. And I think we were just like, happened to be, I wasn't in the office. Like we were traveling like crazy. We had a ton of board meetings going on. We had this major change. Like after 7 years of being in business, being a pretty large, like, over, a $200 million company, like it was massive to rebrand your entire company.
Right.
And we did this rebrand and completely changed every single thing about like our whole, like our website, our company. It's not as simple. It was like a huge thing that was going on for about 18 months. That weekend, the Monday was the announcement.
Yeah.
And so it's not actually that my intention, like sometimes people are just busy, right?
Yes.
So like when you send an email, and even sometimes when people send me like cold pitches and emails, like you also have to get them at the right time, and you never know what the timing is.
Right.
And so I remember my team, I was like, oh, those cookies are so cute. Like how sweet, like it's a local company, but it didn't. And you're right. I probably was like, my team's doing all the social, like sweet of somebody to drop it off for us. Right. And, it needed that extra, next point. And then when I received that package from Carolina, again, I was like, who is this person? Right. And sometimes that's why, that third time's the charm. Like, it's not about the third time. It could be the fourth time. It could be the fifth time. But it's about not giving up until you get the attention that you need. And so it's just so many lessons here, you know, in that. And it's not about just me. Like, it's how you approached it all. And it's so inspiring, Carolina. It's super, super inspiring. And I'll never forget our first meeting. And it started off with like merch conversations, and it started off with event stuff for our retreat. And then you came to our LA retreat. Like we just are the California one. Like it has just been such a beautiful journey. And then when you guys were launching Hi Hello, and you were like, you're coming with us for the studio. And that was it. And I will say that it's also been one of the greatest things for me. I do not think, I was telling Carlos when I walked in here, is today I'm genuinely exhausted. And putting on, it's been 3+ years of the show, you guys. Like it is a lot of work. And this is like the unpaid work.
Right.
This is unpaid. This is, I choose to do this. And it's not like I'm here because I really, 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 truly love this and I really want to make an impact. However, there are days where sometimes I do question, like, okay, why the hell am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it's hard. It's super, super hard. And this morning, like I showed up, I'm here, and I was telling both of you that a huge part of like me not giving up is you guys being here and physically being here, and like literally being like, hey, like we are on schedule for today. Like I'm excited for today. And then I'm like, okay, I got to get excited for today. And I show up into the studio and my space is set up in like this amazing way that like feels like my home. Like this is my home. Like this is my off. This is CEO school is here, you know, and you guys are my team. And if you guys were shitty and like, you want to work with people that take like truly like pull the best out of you. Right. And when I show up, and it doesn't matter if I'm tired, what is going on in my mind, like what's happening from a business world and outside world, when I come here, I'm truly here for all of our listeners. And you guys are able to pull that out of me. And I would have given up like 10 times over if it wasn't for you guys being here. Yeah. And I just want to just tell you how much I appreciate that. And I want our, you know, for all of you that are listening here, make sure you have that squad around you. That is why having a team, and a team does not mean a team on your payroll, right? Right. Hi Hello Labs is a vendor of ours, right? But they're our chosen team, right? This is still a chosen team. So even the people that you work with, like, should be part of your team's DNA, your team's values, the things that align with you, because entrepreneurship is hard. It's always challenging, and you have to be the one to show up. So surround yourself with people that help you get there, that support you, that cheerlead, even when it's hard, when you want to give up, they're there to push you through those hard times. That's the team that you need around you. And it can be a team in so many different avenues. Right. And this show has been going on and for the last 3.5 years, and it's still here today because of you guys.
Oh, really, we feel very honored. And you know, I do want to say something that you mentioned. You know, if you're doing this for sponsorships, if you're doing this is an investment. And podcasting, we see it all the time. Every month we get new people coming in here that want to tour the studio, that want to see. And the first question I ask, and this is how I know when they're in it for the wrong reason, and when I know they're not going to last, is when they ask me, how long is it going to take me to monetize? Yeah. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I also like to be very upfront with them, because the reality is that this is not a space that, especially as the market gets more saturated with more shows, as this industry grows, yes, there's room for opportunity. Yes, there's room for monetization. Yes, there's room to turn this into a business. But the reality is that cannot be your why. That cannot be where you start. And this really needs to come, you know, for impact. If you're coming for it as an entrepreneur, as a business, there are ways for you to leverage audio in your business. Absolutely. We've seen it used as a lead generator. We've seen it used as a client management tool to give, you know we have some consulting firms that use it to use it as a platform for their for their clients, to give them value, to add value to them as clients, give them a platform to share about their businesses. And, it's a win-win for them. We have nonprofits that are using it now as a way to raise funds. Hey, you pay placement. So you pay to be a guest on our show, and we'll, syndicate your show out. So there are ways to use this as a business, to leverage it. But the reality is that those people that were starting podcasts 4 or 5 years ago as a way to, this is going to be my full-time thing, and I'm just going to talk about whatever, that's not there anymore. I hate to break it to you. Like, if you just want to hang around with your girlfriends and talk, like, that's great. Do it from your home.
Do it over a glass
Do it
of
over
wine.
a glass of wine. But this is an investment, and you know it.
Yeah.
This is a financial investment. This is a time investment. You could be on vacation with your kids right now, and you're not, because you have a commitment to produce a show that's well and that's valuable, and that it's not just some thing that's put together last minute. You've put a lot of time and effort into this, and so that's just a little cautionary tale.
No, I love it. And that's part of also why I brought you here on the show today. And right after we're going to record this episode, we are doing a full workshop actually for the CEO Schools membership. We do masterclasses every single month. And this month's masterclass is going to be Carolina. And we're going to go into the business of podcasting and, why you should start one, if you should start one, and, how to make it successful, right? Just like social media, there's algorithms here, there's strategies. This is a strategy. This is a business strategy. And I do believe that it is like there are certain types of businesses that this is so great for.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to kind of switch into that gear. But honestly, it's just so fun just connecting over. It's just so inspiring to me and what you guys have built here. And you're a huge part of us at CEO School. And so all of you that are listening, check out Hi Hello. I'm going to put in a plug here, and we'll be tagging everything in the show notes. But take a look at what they're doing, and just give Carolina some love. So if you love the show, let's show Carolina and Carlos some love for keeping me going every single week here. All right, so let's talk about the business of podcasting. So podcasting, I didn't like there. I think when we came in, I felt like a really good timing to have come in, and the early, the early bird does get the worm. And I don't believe we were the early bird, but we were kind of in this, like in 2020 is when I launched. And so I did feel like the podcasting boom really, really has kicked off over the last several years. But now it's almost becoming super, super saturated, where everybody has a show, everybody has a podcast. Yeah. And so I would love to talk about who is podcasting right for. Okay. Yeah. And then how do we kind of determine that first? And then let's go into the business of podcasting to say how we can use this as a tool to expand our businesses.
Right. So I like to say that podcasting is the new I wrote a book. Right? So like what I wrote a book was in the 90s, early 2000s. That's what podcasting is today. If you want to establish yourself as a thought leader in your space, if you want to add credibility to your portfolio, if you want to tell a story from your perspective within your industry, podcasting is for you. It is a great way to do that. It is a faster way to get your message out there. So before, if you wrote a book, the publishing, the getting it out, the book tours, all of that, well, now you can do that way faster through podcasts, through audio.
Yep.
You can go on podcast tours, and there's people that do that, where you go and you tour your show on other people's shows and leverage their audiences. So that's my little analogy of
I wrote
what
a book.
Podcasting. I wrote a book.
Great analogy.
Yeah. And so podcasting is not for you if you are not in this with a long-term vision.
Okay.
Now there are ways, and we're going to get into that, how you can leverage audio.
Anything, right? Like, don't start a business if you're not in it for, there's no such thing as like get rich quick or get 6 hours, like be a number one show. Like there's no such thing as a quick path anyway.
Absolutely. Not at all. Now there are ways to leverage audio, and that's different. And some people call it a podcast because it gets distributed the same as a podcast, but it's not the same. So thinking podcasting long-term form is a show. It's something that you are going to have seasons in. And with those seasons are going to come ups, downs, listeners, no listeners, subscribers. Your podcast is going to evolve. Your show is going to evolve. And so you need to be ready for all of that within that project.
And then leveraging. So like think about, it's for those that have the long-term vision to be able to make it successful. But I would say what I believe in podcasting is to connect with your audience, right?
Absolutely.
So you don't necessarily have to do it to, it's great to be able to reach new audiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can use it as a tool to reach new audiences and to be that thought leader. So I think one, it's definitely about thought leadership and positioning yourself as an expert in the space. That's why you decided to write a book, right? You're like, I wrote a book.
Absolutely.
I have a podcast because I am an expert in something.
Mm-hmm.
I have thoughts that are insightful or funny or important. And like, I believe that people want to hear those thoughts because you are a thought leader.
Yeah.
And so when those things are checked off, I also believe that podcasting doesn't necessarily have to be for like when people say monetization, right? People like, I don't believe that you're going to come in and sign like a 7-figure contract for a show unless you're like a celebrity or whatever.
Right.
But that's not why you're coming into for podcasting. I don't think about monetization in my podcast to be from sponsorship dollars. There are ways to leverage your podcast for monetization of your business, however.
Right.
And so using it as a lead gen tool, using it to connect deeper with your audiences, that is how, and to connect better, to like, imagine every single week you get to be in the ear of your audience.
Correct.
Right. And you get to, and if you can appreciate that there's 50 people listening, like that's 50 people every week that are not just 50 people on social media that are like scrolling through 1 second of your content.
Mm-hmm.
Podcasting allows you to really get into someone's mind. Like you are literally in someone's psyche for, 20 to 60 minutes every single week.
Right.
That is to me like the most, like when I think about that every week for the show,
right.
And I'm like, there are 20,000 people every week that like put their, like literally every week that put it on and they're like, okay, I'm going to listen to you every single week for an hour.
Yeah.
That is so powerful.
Yeah,
and
what
you get to
you're
go
doing,
deeper.
Yeah, you're building a tribe,
yes.
Right? So like you were saying on social media, you can have 1 million followers, but how many of those people are actually engaging? And so on podcasts, the numbers, I mean, there is a numbers game, but you can have 1,000 people listening and have 1,000 of those people really be engaged is a much more valuable than having 1 million people following you that are not engaging. And so you're right. That really is a big key of podcasting, is to be able to build your tribe and build people that are engaging with you, that are talking back to you and telling you, giving you that feedback. That's invaluable. That feedback of like, yep, this is what we want to hear more of. Actually, that did not resonate with us. Okay, note to self, that did not resonate. And the data talks back to us, right? So if you learn to read the data, that's how your audience talks back to you on podcasting. And so it really is a great tool for building an audience and connecting with them.
I agree. And I think that's where you could think about where the monetization piece, like why do you put in that time? So one, I would say is your why has to be super strong, because you, like in the beginning, you get just like any shiny project, you get excited about something like super, like it's fun, it's shiny, and you're like, okay, it's great. And then that like honeymoon phase dies out, and then you're like, you're the one that has to keep going.
Yeah. And
so your why is super, super important. And then also designing it in a way that also fits for you and your business is the way that I would ensure that you don't have to make it super challenging, or, you can batch record, right? That's primarily what I do. I come into the studio about twice a month is what I come in. And we do a lot more for we use the studio for all of our classes and our workshops. And we do a lot of content inside of the CEO School membership. So that is also why you see me sometimes here so much. But from a podcasting perspective, you can automate and utilize tools and companies. Like you can literally just all I have to do is show up and record, right? And there's still there's work that goes into that, but you can learn to make it work for your business. And I would use it as to connect further with your tribe, building that tribe and having it from a thought leadership perspective. Absolutely. And if you have those things, you can then use it as a lead gen tool. You can then use it to position yourself to go on these like other tours or other podcast tours and go on other people's shows and say, great, I have this, this is where I deliver my messages, or this is what I do for my company, and then leverage other people's audiences as well. So it is definitely a marketing tool. So I would say it's an amazing marketing tool, but you have to also be willing to understand where that monetization piece comes from. I'm not saying that you can't go get sponsorship ads or other things like that, but that doesn't happen overnight. And it's definitely a lot harder, especially like I would say this last year. And like we've been pretty light. We only have one sponsor for the show, and we have been very, very selective because we want to give we're very selective with what our audience hears.
Right.
And that wasn't our primary goal. Our goal wasn't to go get some sponsorship dollars. Our goal is to we have different, we just want to connect further with all of these women and drive them to our programming, right? And to and I want every single one of you to be part of CEO School. So if you're not part of the CEO School membership, I want you to today, go click on the show notes. We've been, let's bring you in. If you enjoy this every week, there's so much more that we do from an education standpoint. But that's my way. This is my way of also just giving value, and this is where we reach our audiences and connect further with the women that we want to. So the lesson here for those that don't have a podcast and you want one, I would say that think about what are those goals that you have. And from there, you can design it in a way that does fit those goals and the time commitment and that energy and all of that. And I do believe that there's a ton of value if you do it right.
Absolutely. And, finding a way that serves you, I think that's huge. And like you said, there's so many tools now with AI being incorporated. There's really so many ways to really automate this system, everything from the development and concept. I mean, you can literally build a new podcast show in 30 seconds using AI with ChatGPT. ChatGPT, call us. But really, I mean, it will literally spit out a concept show, name ideas, titles, show note ideas for you as a host, interview questions for your guests.
We used to have to do all of that manually.
All of that was being done absolutely manually. And, and we've been able to grow. Yeah,
3 months ago.
Right. And so now all of that has been automated, and everything from your guests, all of that, every single aspect of your show can be automated. And so if you want to do this, be encouraged. There are ways to do this. Just know that it is hard work.
Yeah. And I think that's always the message, right? But our audience is also super fantastic, and all of you are just at a next level. I do believe that we have the best tribe in entrepreneurship out there, period. I will take all of you. We will fucking walk circles around every fucking other tribe that's out there. I feel that proud of the CEO School audience and the women and the founders. We attract next level entrepreneurs. And that is why I'm I believe in this so fucking much. I fucking believe in every single one of you so much. And we do listen. Literally, we are I'm literally always in my DMs looking at all of the reviews, looking at all of the stuff. It is how I connect with all of you. You can do this. So I want you to know that if you have a vision for a show, you do want to take your company, you want to add another lead gen tool, this is an amazing lead gen tool. You just have to also make it so that it is differentiating. And you don't have to have a weekly show either. So there are other ways to leverage podcasting. You can create a 12-part season, and you could just go in and record a 12-part season that your audience resonates with, right? So let's say you are let's think of a company, a nutrition company. Okay.
Right.
And you talk about health and wellness is your brand. You sell, whether you're a physical goods company, you have a supplements company, and you do, melatonin gummies. Let's come up with a company right now. Okay. And so, you can also, even as a physical, you don't have to have a service. You can have a physical goods company that is focused on nutrition and sleep. And maybe you don't have a weekly show about it, but maybe you create a 12-part series, and that's focused on, and then you can go get guest experts. You could talk about your why sleep, all of the different educational value of sleep and whatever else, and so you can create a series. Right. And then it's not necessarily, you're not promoting, you're not here, take our nutrition supplement, but it comes from the thought leader. It's something that you can share with your audiences. You can create social content from it.
Absolutely.
Right? So you can create for me, that I'm going to put a pause in why, like one of the things that we do for social. So let's help me come back with to me on this. I don't want to lose that thought. But you can create a 12-part series, have a few guests, you do a few shows, you bring in some experts, you bring in your like, clients or some vendors and whatever. And you can have this awesome show about all things that comes to sleep and health. And it's not about like, and that can be done. And that could be part of like, it lives in this, and then audio form of a platform.
Correct.
But then you can take that, you could distribute it to your newsletter. You can, when you have new clients coming in, be like, oh, like they've like, go take a look at our like mini, like 7-minute episodes on sleep. Or it's like, you can create.
Here are the 12 steps to the most amazing sleep in your life.
Or you do sleep meditations. Like, I don't know, like you can literally use audio in a completely different level. And I do believe that it is another form of like just how when the .com era came and we had to have websites, audio is also a form of that. Social is also a form of that, right? So as we're evolving into our different businesses in 2024, 2025, we have to think about what is coming up ahead, right? And if you are in one lane of attracting your customers, like you are not going to survive. Like those days are gone when you could rely on like just ads to go like drive your customers. You can just rely on one source and one channel or just social media or just one. No, you need to have a multi-source strategy on how you connect with your customers. And also, like Carolina said on knowing your audience, everybody connects differently, right? Yes. Some people are visual learners. Some people are quick. Some people want more of that information. So as a CEO, like you can, and as a company, you should be thinking about all the different ways that you can connect with your potential customers, your vendors, like whatever else that is. And so that is how I would be thinking about audio into your business. I do believe that it has a place. It doesn't have to be a full podcast show. But I'm just trying to give ideas on how you can leverage this new channel.
I love that you said the .com and the website. You're right. And in a place now with technology where people literally search what they want to consume. Before you had a TV and these are the 6 channels, 10 channels, 20 channels you get, and what you get on that programming is what you have access to. We now live in an era where people are searching for what they want to watch, what they want to hear, what they want to consume. And so the more niche you are, the more you go into what you are an expert in, someone who's looking for those sleeping meditations is going to literally type sleeping meditations looking for that. So there are people that are looking for what you have to offer, and putting it on audio is just one more tool you are giving them to get them closer into your door. So I think it's absolutely necessary for you to be thinking about how can you incorporate this into your business.
I love it. I do believe that this is the future, but that it is becoming more and more saturated, right? So it does mean that the saturation, I think people get afraid of saturation. Saturation does not mean that you shouldn't do it. Saturation just means that you've got to think differently.
Right. You've got to be more intentional about what you're putting out.
Absolutely. And I love that you said niching down. I do believe in that. People ask me all the time why I don't just open this up for like all entrepreneurs, right? And I know I've got men listening here. I know I love you. I know you're there and you message me. I know you're there. But we have to be really intentional about who our audience is so that I can really think about your psyche, right? And that is why you also resonate, is because I talk to you directly. You're like very, very specific style of entrepreneurs that we attract. We attract female like women plus is what I call it. Yes. Women plus entrepreneurs. And then also have like, even within a different category of why we like differentiate ourselves as like that scaling entrepreneur. We want to help you build big businesses. Yep. I don't want to be just the early stage. I want to be able to actually tactically teach you how to scale beyond that 2% mark. That's something that's why the show was created. We wanted to focus on helping you build $1 million plus businesses.
And not being afraid of losing out on people. Your people will find you. They will come. I remember listening to your show and thinking to myself, I'm not a 6-figure entrepreneur. But you know what that did? Instead of pushing me away, it made me work to become a 6-figure entrepreneur. So now that I'm a 6-figure entrepreneur, I'm like, wow, okay, I'm here.
Our tribe is
What's
the best.
Next?
That's why our tribe is the best.
I love that you are unapologetic about your messaging. I am for 6-figure entrepreneurs. Oh, I'm a entrepreneur. I want to come to a retreat. Retreat is not for you. Retreat is for scaling entrepreneurs. Yep. And so what that is going to do it's going to serve your customer base. It's going to serve who your audience is. But then all that sort of second layer customers that are waiting to become are going to push themselves into your base. And so we need to not be afraid. I think that's such a scarcity mentality of like, oh, if I'm not for everyone, I'm going to tell you something right now. If you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one and you're saying nothing. So I think the importance of niching down and then being able to, like you were saying, repurposing that content with AI now, you can literally upload your 7-minute audio to a service, which I will share in the workshop. You can upload that into the service and it will literally spit out your newsletter copy, your threads, now the new Instagram threads, your new your captions for your Instagram, TikTok, everything. It will literally spit out everything you need to repurpose that content.
And that was that parking lot note that I had on social media. Okay. So one of the final things I will say, I'm like, why I do love this is one of the things like when I was showing up on Instagram, I was so tired of doing the Instagram lives. Like that's how I was connecting with my audience further and just hanging out on my Wind Down Wednesday with all of you. So shout out to all the women who would come to like the early stage Wind Down Wednesdays. But I was like, okay, I need to be able to like move this to a different source. Right. That's how the podcast happened. But what also ended up happening is that's when Reels had just come out. And I just am not that girl. Like and when you see me do like a fun reel, it's because I actually want to do something funny or I do something with my kids or whatever. But in the beginning, I almost felt like this imposter of trying to like point at shit. And I'm like, I knew it was important. And like I couldn't fucking do a jumping thing for like the sake of it. Like literally looked like I couldn't like the clothes, all of them. I tried. I'm not that editor. Like I just can't do it. Even with a team, like it just did not feel authentic in who I was. But we were able to leverage. So that was one of the big shifts of like why we moved into the studio as well. And why I love having the studio is because we've got like not just video content from like just the Zoom. We're able to take video content and now turn this content into highlight reels and other things. And this is my most
YouTube
authentic
show. So if you're on YouTube, come check us out at CEO School
We
Podcast.
just put it on YouTube and there's a whole strategy on YouTube. And I'll tell you, it can be overwhelming. And so you don't have to start with all of it. Like we're just now putting our stuff on YouTube, right? And for me, even just getting that 15-second, 30-second segments from the show and using that as like a way for social media for video content was like one less thing I had to worry about.
Right.
And it was in my most authentic place. Like this is my most authentic place that I'm at, where I get to connect and teach and learn from other people like you. Like I love, it's like a coffee date with like the greatest women that I get to meet too. And so this is like natural and authentic to me. Then you take that content and I don't even have to do it, but my production studio does it. So you can find, and if you don't have, and it's honestly, you think that these are crazy budgets. They're not. There's tools out there. There's amazing companies that do all of this for you. And I don't have to worry about showing up and pointing at stuff. And it does feel my most authentic way to connect with my audience. So I think that's like a huge bonus tip on how to leverage the multi-channel piece of it. And our podcast is our hub of all of our content. So when we create this, like, so today we're having a conversation on podcasting, and I have Carlina very strategically because we're actually hosting the workshop right after. We're going to record a full 60-minute, almost like a mini course. We're going to do these masterclasses are like every single thing, and we're going to learn about podcasting more in depth. What are the tools? How to use it for content? Who are like all of the different things? Now we're going to go into a workshop, but we use the hub is the podcast. Then from there, we create content around it. Guess what's going to be on our newsletter? Exactly. We're going to have it on our newsletter. Guess what? We're going to have social that comes out of this. So we're able to leverage one solid piece to drive our stuff for the entire, almost a month, honestly, we could. We do it weekly, right? And so that is how CEO School has been designed so that my hour of time here, or my 2 hours today, it's going to literally be so impactful for and so much value for our audiences. I think just yesterday, Sophia Amoroso sent me a message and she was just like, girl, you put out so much content. And I'm like, you know what? Thanks. I'm not putting, it's not like my effort levels of content are up here.
Right.
I just have a really good system in place.
Right.
Really good system.
Right.
And so It's great for social. You can leverage the systems. Carolina, I know you and I are going to go record our amazing workshop. If you guys want access to the workshop, it's completely for free for all of our members. So that is such a huge benefit of why you should be joining CEO School. Come join our membership. Link is in bio. It's literally as affordable as like $50 a month. Like, it's not expensive. I highly recommend you come in and just connect with our members, our entrepreneurs, our experts, and get to meet, Carolina in digital person, online. But I really just love this episode. I could talk to you all day long.
No, we could talk all day long.
Talk to you all day long about all the things momming, and you are such an incredible mother. I just want to also say you're an inspiring mother. How you balance everything or integrate everything, and just always just make it all happen. I'm inspired by you every day.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for being on CEO School. Thank you for tuning into today's show. If you loved it, leave us a review. We are so proud to bring you authentic conversations, game changer expert guests, and valuable content on and offline. The best compliment you can give us is by screenshotting today's show and tagging us on Instagram at CEO School and at Sanira Madani. We are obsessed with swag, so don't be surprised if we want to send you some. Thanks for tuning into class today, and remember, nothing bad happens when women make more money.